YouTubers, Pastor Bob. Hey, I want to show you guys my new bookshelf that my wife got me. These were two bookshelves that she had in the living room, only they were vertical, and they're like 6 feet tall. So she didn't want them anymore, and I thought, well, you know what? All my books were out in the garage in two bookshelves out there, and I wanted to bring them in here. So I thought I could lay those on their sides, and they might look pretty good. So I brought them in here and laid them down on their sides, and they look pretty cool. But listen, I went out there. This is about a little less than half of my books. So I went out there and started getting them and bringing them in and like lining them up, by author and getting them in order. And then my wife comes in here and she goes, no. She goes, you can't stuff it full the whole way across. She said, that doesn't look good. It looks cluttered. So you have to put like 5 or 6 books and then put one at an angle, and then it doesn't look cluttered. It looks pretty good. So I don't know about that. I'd rather just stuff them all in there and have them all in here, but she wouldn't go for it. I'm lucky she didn't make me color code all of them. But anyway, that's my new bookshelf. What do you think? YouTubers, Pastor Bob. I hope you guys are all having a blessed week. It's Monday. What in the world is Pastor Bob doing making a video on Monday? Well, I don't work anymore. So we're going to start having videos all throughout the week. I'm going to start doing them one at a time as they come into my head. And we'll still try to upload at least 1 or 2 on Saturday. But listen, I started going through the Bible again. I read Genesis. And there's one chapter in Genesis that I always have to stop and talk about because I just find it funny. And it's not funny, but I find it funny. But it's Genesis 22. And what it is Abraham, he's promised this son that his descendants are going to be like the stars in the sky. And so anyway, Isaac is born, and then, when they're old, Abraham and Sarah are old, and Isaac is born, and then one day the Lord comes to Abraham and he says, hey, I want you to take your son and you're going to sacrifice him to me. And Abraham, he doesn't even waver. He just does what God tells him to do. And so I'm sure he didn't tell his wife what he was going to do, but him and little Isaac, they head out and they start heading up the mountain, them and a couple of servants. So there's a couple of things that I want to bring out. And the first one is when he gets to the point where he looks up the mountain, he tells his servants, he says, I and the boy will go over there and worship and come to you again. So Abraham tells the servants, I and the boy are going to go up there and we will both return to you. So that tells me that Abraham had every intent of sacrificing Isaac, and he thought that God would probably raise him from the dead. I'm not sure what he thought, but he told the servants we're both going to come back. And then as they're heading up there, Isaac goes, hey, something's not right here. Listen, he says, behold the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide for himself a lamb for the burnt offering. So Isaac's going, man, something's fishy here. So he follows his dad up there, and then pretty soon Abraham binds up his son, and then Isaac realizes he's the sacrifice. So Abraham ties up Isaac, and he's just about ready to plunge the knife into him when the angel of the Lord says, hey, Abraham, don't hurt the child. Now I know that you would not withhold anything from me, not even your child. And then Abraham looks over, and of course there's a lamb caught in the thicket. And so he goes, unties Isaac, and they dress the animal and sacrifice the animal. So what this is one of the names of God. The Lord will provide. And people, listen. Throughout my entire life, I'm 66 years old, and I can testify to the fact that God always provides. He will never not provide from you. I have people all the time. I've had people my whole life. Some of them that didn't believe in prayer. Say, why do you pray every time you eat? Every time you eat, why do you do that? And I always tell them, you know what? God feeds me 3 times a day. And I want to thank God for doing that, because one of these days I may not have any food. One of these days I may need food. And I want God to look back and say, you know what? He thanked me every time I fed him, and I'm not going to stop feeding him now. God will always provide. You know, we're at a time right now where we don't know what the future holds. All it would take is a pandemic a little bit worse than this COVID-19, and the trucks would quit rolling. And if the trucks ever quit rolling, as you guys have seen with the toilet paper, right? The stores literally would be bare in 72 hours. 3 days, there would be a single thing left on the shelf. And that's when you got to bring your dogs and your cats inside, because when the neighbors start getting hungry, everything's fair game. But listen, we could come to a time where there are no resources whatsoever. But people, if that ever happens, God will provide. Never forget that. God will provide. Now, this is what I find funny about this story. What I find funny is, what about the next time that Abraham went to go up to the mountain to sacrifice? What do you think happened? Come on, Isaac, we're going to go sacrifice to the Lord. And I can just see Isaac looking at his dad going, no way, I'm not going. No, come on, we have to go sacrifice, come on. Nope, I'm not going. I remember last time. I'm not going. Sorry, go ahead. Knock yourself out. I'm not going. What, this time we're not going to have fire? What are you going to do, hack me up and burn me? Nope, I'm not going. You go by yourself, have a good time. I'm not going. And I'll bet you anything that Isaac never went with him ever again. Anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed week. Stay safe. I'm still, my wife is still making me bring everything in from the store, put it on a table out in the garage, decontaminate everything before it comes in the house. Man, it takes me longer to decontaminate everything than it does to go to the store and pick it all up. So I hope all this ends pretty soon. I guess today, Monday, some of the states, things are starting to open back up, so it's looking pretty good. But just a calm before the storm. That's all this is, a calm before the storm. It's going to get worse, it's going to keep getting worse. But always remember, God will provide. Anyway, you guys have a blessed week, and I'll talk to you again in a day or two. Heaven or hell, you choose. Just remember, once you take your last breath, it's a done deal.